Alright, so here it is all finished, and I gotta say this knife took a very long time to customize. And as you guys saw from the title of the video, I put about 42-ish, maybe a little bit more hours into this knife. Obviously it wasn't every day, but just a lot of time went into it, and I think it paid off. So let's start with the brass scale. And I'm not going to try and touch the integrated bolster since I don't want to tarnish. I can touch here since it'll get covered, but this is what took quite a bit of time. Now I had to put into my computer basically the layout of the holes, because I tried to do this on my first attempt manually, and I quickly learned that if the stop pin holes aren't exactly where they need to be, then you have up and down blade play, and that just didn't work for me. So went back to the computer and did a couple test runs on some really thin G10, just because it's cheap, it's affordable if you mess up. So I did a bunch of them, maybe 8 or 9 attempts until I got it perfect, and then I fully committed onto the brass. So this is what we ended up with, and as you guys can see, you can see the milling pattern, which is very subtle. You can see it, but you can barely feel it. And got it as best as I could, and I'm just really surprised what that CNC can do, especially if you get the settings right. But if it wasn't for that, then this knife wouldn't even have been customized. So very happy with the outcome. And as you guys can see, I did a nice stonewash finish, just because, well, I was considering doing a satin finish, but we all know how that goes. If you even look at a satin finish, it gets a scratch for whatever reason. But I also did a stone wash basically all the way around, so it matches, and if it does get scratched, it'll just be part of the look. So really happy with that. The other side was a little bit more tricky, since you have to deal with the pivot pin. You have that oval insert piece there, but again, the CNC made it possible, so thank God for that. And if you guys are looking for a tabletop CNC, I'll leave a link down below where you guys can pick one up and use it, because it is very handy. Now, another thing that took quite a bit of time was the scales. So I really took my time on these, just so they had a perfect fit, nice and flush against the integrated bolsters. So the issue with the scales was I didn't have, as you guys can see, this hole right here. I didn't have a way to actually push this section down, and I didn't want to put a screw from up top, because visually that just would have looked ugly, and I really didn't want to just put it over the stop pin here, the last one. I just didn't want it to peel up, because if it gets snagged anywhere, which it wouldn't because I made it nice and flush everywhere, but it was bothering me. So what I ended up doing was drilling a hole through the brass. And then I actually took from a cheap Gerber knife, which had no purpose here. I took the barrel spacer, or the standoff, cut it in half, and then I put some grooves, as you can see there, like a star pattern, and then I put a recessed hole, and then I press fitted this in there, and then I put super glue so that it doesn't go anywhere. So it's a very nice tight fit, and that way I can go from underneath, hiding the option that I wanted to do from up above. I just flipped it under and did it from underneath, so it just visually looks better on the knife itself. But when we put it together, I'll show you guys. I also did a very subtle Hamon etch. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I'm really happy with it. As you guys can see in the right light, you can see it. So it just gives it that illusion that it has a Hamon steel blade, which I think looks pretty good. And then I heat anodized certain hardware. So basically anything that goes onto the purple stabilized wood got heat anodized to a bronze color to match the brass. And then I left some parts of the hardware a nice satin finish. So what I did was I basically gave the pivot pin a nice satin finish, circular satin finish, if that makes any sense. So basically brightened it back up. I did the standoffs as well, and then I left a few of the stop pins just the steel color because it isn't going against the purple. Before I forget, I did do a custom pocket clip, so you can see right here. So Michael, the customer, wanted a similar pocket clip that I did for the 20.5, which I have right here. There you go. It's already it already tarnished and did its thing, so it's a lot darker. But as you can see, since this is basically the little brother of the 20S, the pocket clip's a little bit bigger, but he really liked that shark tooth look to it. So that is what I did. And then I did the same. It's hardware from underneath, so you don't have any hardware from up top. So it's just a really, really nice clean look. Now, one thing about the pocket clip, if something is to happen to this one, you can use the original, which I have right here. I did etch and stone wash it to match the blade. So a backup pocket clip is good. As long as he doesn't do anything crazy, the pocket clip should be just fine. Now that we talked quite a bit about it, let's put this in together and see what it looks like. Alright, so here it is all finished, and I did put on a pair of gloves because I do not want to patina that brass, but really, really happy with it all put together. Just looks really good since that purple clashes very well with the brass. And I did put a slight satin finish and then stone washed over it on the pocket clip and the bolster section. See if we can get that into light. So you still get a satin finish, but with a nice stone wash finish on top of it. But I did the thumb stud as well. And then wherever the hardware is touching the brass, I left it metal or steel and gave it that circular satin finish. And then I was going to etch the lock bar, the shark lock, but I didn't want to etch dark, so I just made it match the standoffs in the back. There is the stabilized wood, which I think looks really, really good. Again, I did do a Benchmade mini crooked river, basically the same idea here. I'll leave a link up where you can check that video if you haven't seen it already. But I guess this is the big brother version of that. And I believe it functions, as I made sure to make that my priority. So there it is opened up. There is that subtle Hamon Etch and stone wash. Gave it a fresh cutting edge, which is a medium grit finish, so it does have some bite to it. Since this is a shark themed knife with that shark lock, it just makes sense to have that cutting edge bite a little bit. But here it is with the pocket clip side opened up. Again, just really pleased with that pocket clip. Tension's awesome with it. It's not going to go anywhere. This knife, I definitely the most time I've put into a custom knife, so I'm very proud of this one. Really, really pleased with it. As always, let me know down below what you guys think. I always appreciate you guys' input. Also, another thing, I wanted to give you guys a listen to the sound this thing makes. So it still has that chunky sound to it. It's not as before where I did that update video, but it's definitely still there. See if we can get it. Has that nice bounce. But yeah, just a really, really cool sound and a lot of weight. It's definitely not 10 ounces anymore, which it was before I even did anything to it. So let's give it a quick weigh. Got the weigh right here. And I know it's not going to be 10 ounces, but it's still going to be pretty darn heavy. So let's see what we got here. So we got 8.85 ounces. which is, I'd say it's a lot lighter than before, which I'm really happy with. And I knew that was going to happen since I added the scales and I had to remove that material. But another plus to this knife, since I spent a lot of time on it and I had to do a test run, I used some white G10 to make another set. Again, this was just a prototype, but everything worked perfectly. Everything fit up nicely, so I made custom white G10 scales as well that Michael is more than happy to purchase. So these are really, really nice, and I contoured them just slightly. Give them a nice beveled edge all the way around so it's comfortable in hand. And yeah, really, really pleased with these ones, but I'll do another quick video of this another time, but really happy with the white ones as well. But there is the Demko Ad-20S with the purple stabilized wood, full brass scales, and a custom brass pocket clip. And one more thing I forgot to mention was I did put that, I guess, a scallop texture on the shark lock. Kind of makes it look like it's shark teeth. And then I also did the same thing on the spine of the blade, which I think goes really well. Complements the theme. Just looks good overall. Thank you for the support. I really, really appreciate it. And as always, I will see you guys on the next one.